Chapter 1. Stop waiting to feel ready. The great illusion of readiness. We have been lied to. From the time we are children, we are told to get ready. We are told to prepare, to study, to wait for the right moment, and to ensure we have all our ducks in a row before we take a leap. While preparation has its place, it often becomes the very veil that hides a debilitating fear of failure. In the world of high performance, among the CEOs who build empires, the athletes who break world records, and the innovators who change the course of history, there is a shared secret: readiness is a myth. If you are listening to this right now because you feel like you're standing on the edge of a cliff, waiting for the wind to die down before you jump, you are already losing. The wind never dies down. The conditions never become perfect. The feeling of being ready is a chemical mirage that only appears once you are already deep in the struggle. Average people wait for confidence before they take action. They say, "Once I feel more confident, I'll start that business." Or, "Once I feel more prepared, I'll ask for that promotion." This is a fundamental misunderstanding of human psychology. You have the equation backward. Action creates confidence, not the other way around. The science of hesitation. Why do we wait? It's wired into our DNA. Your brain is a 2-million-year-old organ designed for one thing: survival. In the ancestral environment, uncertainty meant danger. A rustle in the grass could be a predator. A new path through the woods could lead to a cliff. Your brain evolved to keep you in the known, the safe, the comfortable, and the predictable. But we no longer live in a world of saber-toothed tigers. Today, the danger is a social rejection, a financial loss, or a bruised ego. Yet, your brain reacts with the same intensity. It creates a feeling of UN readiness as a defense mechanism to keep you exactly where you are. When you say, "I'm not ready," what you are actually saying is, "I am afraid." Winners have learned to identify this biological trick. They don't wait for the fear to go away. They don't wait for the uncertainty to vanish. They recognize that the feeling of not being ready is actually a compass. It is pointing directly toward the growth they need. If you feel ready, you are likely doing something you've already done. If you feel unprepared, you are on the verge of something new. The confidence loop. Think back to the first time you drove a car. You weren't ready. Your hands were shaking on the wheel. You were overwhelmed by the mirrors, the pedals, and the traffic. You didn't have driving confidence. You only gained that confidence after you spent hours behind the wheel, making mistakes and navigating the roads. Action is the only laboratory where confidence is synthesized. Every time you take action while feeling uncertain, you send a signal to your subconscious mind. That signal says, "I'm the kind of person who can handle things even when I don't have all the answers." This is the birth of mental toughness. Repetitive reinforcement. Action creates confidence. Action creates confidence. Action creates confidence. The perfectionism trap. Perfectionism is just procrastination in a tuxedo. It looks sophisticated. It sounds responsible. We tell ourselves we are being diligent or thorough, but in reality, we are just stalling. Consider the entrepreneur who spends 2 years perfecting a business plan, designing the perfect logo, and scouting the perfect office, but never actually launches a product. Contrast that with the entrepreneur who launches a messy version of their idea in 2 weeks. The first person is waiting to feel ready. The second person is getting real-world feedback. By the time the perfectionist is ready, the messy action taker has already failed 3 times, learned 3 massive lessons, and pivoted to a successful model. Real-world growth begins when excuses end. You must give yourself permission to be a beginner. You must give yourself permission to be messy. You must give yourself permission to be afraid. But you do not have permission to stay still. Discipline replaces emotion. One of the core pillars of mental toughness is the divorce between your feelings and your actions. Average people are mood-based performers. If they wake up feeling motivated, they work hard. If they wake up feeling tired or uninspired, they do the bare minimum. Winners are decision-based performers. They move because they decided to move, not because they feel like it. Imagine a professional athlete. Do you think they feel like training at 5 a.m. in the freezing rain? Do you think they feel ready to compete when they are nursing a sore hamstring and the world is watching? No, but they move anyway. They have trained their bodies to obey their will, not their whims. When you allow your emotions to dictate your actions, you are a slave to your biology. Mental toughness is the process of becoming the master. It is the ability to look at your fatigue, your doubt, and your lack of readiness and say, I hear you, but we are moving anyway. Phrase repetition. You move because you decided, not because you feel like it. The cost of waiting. What is the price of your hesitation? We often think about what might go wrong if we act. We think about the money we might lose or the embarrassment we might face. But we rarely calculate the cost of not acting. The cost of waiting is the life you could have lived. It is the person you could have become. It is the impact you could have had. Every day you wait to feel ready is a day you have handed over to mediocrity. In the real world, the ready never arrive because the goalposts always move. As soon as you master one level, the next level will make you feel unqualified again. If you aren't feeling a sense of UN readiness, you aren't growing. Case study: the launch of greatness. Look at any major success story. When Reed Hastings started Netflix, he wasn't ready to take on the multi-billion-dollar giant of Blockbuster. He had a small DVD buy-mail service. He was uncertain. He was outmatched. But he acted. When a young athlete enters the Olympic arena for the first time, they are surrounded by veterans. They feel like an imposter. They don't feel ready for that level of pressure. But the gun goes off, and they run. These people didn't have a lack of fear. They had a commitment to action that was stronger than their fear. They understood that the feeling of confidence is a luxury, but the act of courage is a necessity. Practical application: the 5-second rule. If you struggle with the readiness myth, you need a circuit breaker. The moment you have an impulse to act on a goal, but you feel the hesitation creeping in, you have a 5-second window before your brain kills the idea. Count backward. 5-4-3-2-1. And move. Don't think. Don't analyze. Don't check your feelings. Just move your feet. Physical movement shifts your psychology. By the time you reach 1, you have broken the cycle of hesitation. You are no longer a waiter, you are a door. The calloused mind. David Goggins, often cited as one of the toughest men alive, talks about callousing the mind. Just as your hands develop callus to protect you from the friction of hard work, your mind develops callus from the friction of doing things you don't feel ready for. Every time you act while uncertain, your mind gets tougher. You become more resilient. You begin to realize that the monsters of your imagination, failure, embarrassment, loss, are not nearly as scary as the reality of a life lived in a waiting room. Chapter summary and anchor. As we close this first chapter, I want you to look at the areas of your life where you are currently waiting. Is it a career move? Is it a fitness goal? Is it a difficult conversation? Is it a creative project? Identify the excuse you've been using. Is it I need more money? I need more time. I need more experience. Strip away the costume and call it what it is. You are waiting to feel ready. But readiness is a myth. Winners act while uncertain. Average people wait for confidence before action. From this moment forward, you are done waiting. You understand that the bridge between who you are and who you want to be is built out of bricks of action, not thoughts of preparation. You don't need to feel ready. You just need to begin. Action creates confidence, not the other way around. You move because you decided, not because you feel like it. Growth begins when excuses end. Stop waiting. Start moving. The world doesn't reward those who have the best ideas. It rewards those who have the toughness to act on them while everyone else is still getting ready. Chapter 2. Control your emotions or they control you. The invisible leash. If I can make you angry with a single word, I own you. If I can make you jealous with a single social media post, I own you. If a negative comment from a stranger can ruin your entire afternoon, then you are not the master of your life. You are a slave to your environment. In this chapter, we are going to talk about the most dangerous enemy you will ever face. It isn't the competition. It isn't the economy. It isn't your boss or your rival. It is the unbridled, uncalculated emotional reaction that lives inside your own chest. Mental toughness is not about becoming a robot. It is not about deleting your feelings. It is about emotional governance. It is the ability to acknowledge an emotion, look it in the eye, and decide that it will not be allowed to drive the car. Emotional reactions destroy opportunities. This is a fundamental law of the winner's universe. When you act out of anger, insecurity, or ego, you are almost always making a permanent decision based on a temporary feeling. And those permanent decisions are usually the ones that sabotage long-term success. The biology of the blow-up. To master your emotions, you must first understand the machinery. Inside your brain is a small, almond-shaped structure called the amygdala. This is your lizard brain. Its job is to scan the environment for threats. When it perceives a threat, whether it's a physical predator or a perceived insult to your ego, it triggers the fight-or-flight response. It floods your body with cortisol and adrenaline. It shuts down your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logic, long-term planning, and rational thought. In this state, you are literally incapable of making a good decision. You are operating on ancient software. Winners have learned to recognize the amygdala hijack the moment it starts. They feel the heat rising in their neck. They feel the tightening in their chest. But instead of letting that energy explode outward, they contain it. They understand that responding is power, but reacting is weakness. Responding versus reacting. Let's define the difference, because your success depends on it. Reacting is a reflex. It is instantaneous. It is what happens when you snap back at a critic. It is what happens when you send that angry email at 11 p.m. It is what happens when you quit a project because you felt disrespected. Reacting is defensive. It's an attempt to protect your ego in the short term, but it almost always hurts your interests in the long term. Responding is a choice. It is measured. It is looking at the situation, weighing the outcomes, and choosing the path that leads to the win. Think about a high-pressure workplace. There is a crisis. A major client is leaving, or a project has failed. There are two types of people in that office. Person A is the loud complainer. They are reacting. They are looking for someone to blame. They are venting their frustration to anyone who will listen. They think they are being authentic, but they are actually projecting weakness. Person B is the calm thinker. They feel the same stress, but they don't let it out. They sit back. They analyze. They ask, how do we fix this? When management looks for someone to promote, who do they choose? They choose person B. Every single time. Why? Because you cannot lead others if you cannot lead yourself. The promotion goes to the calm thinker, not the loud complainer. Mental toughness is the ability to remain a cooling system in a room full of heaters. The ego trap. Most of our emotional volatility comes from one source, the ego. The ego wants to be right. It wants to be seen. It wants to be validated. When someone challenges us, our ego feels attacked. It demands that we fight back to prove our worth. But winners move differently. A winner understands that ego is a luxury they cannot afford. If you are focused on proving you are right, you aren't focused on getting the result. Imagine you are an athlete. A rival player is trash-talking you on the field. They are trying to get a reaction. If you react, if you shove them or shout back, you might get a penalty. You might get ejected from the game. They win. They didn't beat you with skill. They beat you by manipulating your emotions. Mental toughness is the ability to stay focused on the scoreboard while the noise is happening at your feet. It is the realization that your goals are more important than your feelings. The space between stimulus and response. The psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl once wrote, "Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." Mentally tough people live in that space. When someone cuts you off in traffic, that is the stimulus. Your anger, that is the emotion. But the action you take, that is the choice. Most people have a space that is so small it's invisible. They move from stimulus to response in a millisecond. To build mental toughness, you must widen that gap. You must train yourself to expand the space between what happens to you and what you do about it. How do you do that? With a repetitive command that you must practice every single day. Pause. Breathe. Choose. The 3-step protocol. Let's break this down. This is the operating system for emotional control. Step 1. Pause. The moment you feel an emotional spike, whether it's anger, fear, or even overexcitement, stop. Physically stop. If you are typing, take your hands off the keyboard. If you are speaking, close your mouth. The pause is the circuit breaker. It prevents the lizard brain from taking full control. Step 2. Breathe. This is physiological. A deep breath into the belly signals to your nervous system that you are not in physical danger. It lowers your heart rate. It brings oxygen back to the prefrontal cortex. It reboots your rational mind. Step 3. Choose. Ask yourself one question. What action will serve my long-term goal? Does yelling at this person move me closer to the goal? No. Does quitting this job move me closer to the goal? No. Does staying calm and finding a solution move me closer? Yes. Repetitive command. Pause. Breathe. Choose. Mental toughness begins in the space between stimulus and response. The poison of insecurity and jealousy. It's not just anger that we have to control. Insecurity and jealousy are the silent killers of winners. When you see someone else succeeding, the weak voice in your head starts to whisper. It tells you that they are lucky. It tells you that you aren't good enough. It makes you want to diminish their success so you can feel better about your lack of progress. This is an emotional reaction. And it is poison. Winners have the toughness to control this. When they see someone else winning, they don't react with jealousy. They respond with curiosity. They don't get insecure, they get inspired. They realize that someone else's success is not a reflection of their failure. If you let jealousy control you, you will spend all your energy watching other people's lives instead of building your own. You will become a spectator of greatness instead of a creator of it. Workplace mastery. The calmest person wins. In any negotiation, in any high-stakes meeting, in any crisis, the person with the most emotional control has the most power. Control is leverage. If I know that I can't rattle you, I become rattled myself. Your calmness is a psychological weapon. It signals to everyone else that you are in control of the situation because you are in control of yourself. Think of a surgeon. If a surgeon starts panicking when a complication arises, the patient dies. The surgeon must be the coolest person in the room. They feel the stress, they see the blood, they know the stakes, but they govern their hands and their mind. You must be the surgeon of your own career. You must be the surgeon of your own life. When the bleeding starts, whether it's financial, professional, or personal, you do not have the luxury of a meltdown. Winners pause. Losers react. Practicing under fire. You don't build this skill when things are going well. You build it when things are going wrong. Every time you are inconvenienced today, when the line is too long, when your computer crashes, when someone says something rude, view it as a training rep. Don't see it as a nuisance. See it as a weight in the emotional control gym. Can you stay calm? Can you maintain your composure? Can you expand that space between the stimulus and the response? If you can master the small inconveniences, you will be prepared for the massive crises. Chapter summary and anchor. Mental toughness is not the absence of emotion. It is the mastery over it. You will still feel anger. You will still feel fear. You will still feel the sting of an insult. But you will no longer be a victim of those feelings. You will recognize them as data points, not as instructions. Remember, emotional reactions destroy opportunities. Responding is power. Reacting is weakness. The world belongs to those who can keep their head when everyone else is losing theirs. The promotion, the respect, the victory, it all goes to the person who can look at chaos and respond with a calculated, calm strategy. Carry this command with you. Pause. Breathe. Choose. Mental toughness is not about what happens to you. It is about how you choose to process what happens to you. Control your emotions, or they will surely control you. Chapter 3. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. The cult of comfort. We live in the most comfortable era in human history. We have climate-controlled houses, food delivered to our doorsteps with a tap on a screen, and endless entertainment designed to keep us sedated on our couches. Our ancestors lived in a world of constant physical and environmental friction. We live in a world of cushioned corners. But there is a high price to pay for this convenience. When you remove all friction from your life, you remove the very thing that makes you strong. Comfort is not a reward for hard work. It is a slow-growing rot that destroys your ambition, your resilience, and your edge. Mental toughness is the art of seeking out the things that others avoid. It is the deliberate choice to step out of the warm light of the familiar and into the cold, harsh reality of growth. If you want to separate yourself from everyone else, you must learn to fall in love with the things that make you want to quit. Growth requires friction. Every level up demands pain. The biological trap. Your brain is not your friend when it comes to greatness. Your brain is a survival machine. Its primary goal is to conserve energy and avoid risk. From an evolutionary perspective, discomfort meant danger. If you were cold, you might die. If you were exhausted, you might be eaten. If you were in a high-conflict situation, you might be exiled. Because of this, your brain has developed a highly sophisticated alarm system. The moment you start a difficult workout, or the moment you pick up the phone to make a high-stakes sales call, your brain starts screaming. It sends signals of anxiety, boredom, and fatigue. It tries to convince you that you are tired, that this isn't working, or that you can do this tomorrow. Most people listen to that voice. They think the voice is telling them the truth. They believe that discomfort is a signal to stop. Winners know better. Winners understand that the voice of discomfort is not a warning of danger, it is a notification of growth. When you feel that internal resistance, it means you have reached the edge of your current capacity. To expand that capacity, you must push through the resistance. Repetition. Pressure builds diamonds. Pressure builds diamonds. The physics of success. Think about the nature of a diamond. A diamond is not born beautiful. It starts as a common piece of carbon. What separates that carbon from a priceless gemstone? Two things: extreme heat and immense pressure. Without the weight of the earth pressing down on it, that carbon remains soft, dark, and unremarkable. The same is true for the human spirit. If you want to be valuable, if you want to be hard, if you want to be rare, you must be willing to endure the pressure. Most people are looking for a way to achieve the result without the heat. They want the million-dollar business without the sleepless nights. They want the elite physique without the grueling discipline. They want the respect without the sacrifice. It doesn't work that way. The universe does not give out diamonds for free. You must pay for your greatness in the currency of discomfort. Avoidance builds weakness. Every time you choose comfort over discipline, you are training your brain to be weak. You are shrinking your comfort zone. When you avoid a difficult conversation with a partner or a team member, you aren't keeping the peace. You are building a wall of resentment and weakness. When you skip a workout because it's raining, you aren't resting. You are telling your subconscious that your goals are secondary to the weather. The more you avoid discomfort, the more fragile you become. Eventually, even the smallest inconvenience, a late flight, a rude comment, a minor setback, becomes enough to derail your entire day. You become a person who is easily broken. Mental toughness is tolerance training. It is the process of callousing your mind by repeatedly exposing it to stress. Think about a gardener. A gardener who has never worked a day in the soil has soft, sensitive hands. The first time they pick up a shovel, they get blisters. It hurts. They want to stop. But if they keep digging, day after day, the skin thickens. The blisters turn into callus. Eventually, they can handle the shovel for 10 hours a day without feeling a thing. You must callous your mind. You do this by leaning into the very things that make you uncomfortable. Seeking the suck. In the elite military communities, like the Navy SEALs, there is a common phrase: embrace the suck. They don't say ignore the suck. They don't say endure the suck. They say embrace it. This is a profound shift in mindset. When you embrace discomfort, you are no longer its victim. You are its master. How do you practice this in everyday life? You start small. You look for micro discomforts to train your willpower. The cold shower. Your body hates cold water. Every morning, your brain will tell you to keep the dial on warm. When you consciously turn that dial to cold, you are winning the first battle of the day. You are telling your brain, I am in charge, not you. The extra mile. When you are at the gym and you finish your planned set, do one more. When your body says I'm done, do 5 more minutes. This trains you to operate beyond your perceived limits. The difficult conversation. Instead of rehearsing what you're going to say for 3 weeks, do it now. Walk into the office, pick up the phone, and address the friction directly. These small acts of courage build a reservoir of toughness that you can draw upon when a real crisis hits. If you can handle a cold shower and a grueling workout, you can handle a market crash. If you can handle a hard conversation, you can handle a legal battle. Mental toughness as a muscle. We often think of mental toughness as a fixed trait, something you are either born with or you aren't. This is a lie. Mental toughness is a muscle, and just like any muscle, it atrophies if it isn't used. If you live a life of total ease for 6 months, your mental toughness will disappear. You will become soft. You will become reactive. You will become average. This is why winners never stop challenging themselves. They don't reach a certain level of success and then retire into comfort. They know that the moment they stop seeking friction is the moment they start sliding backward. Look at the most successful people in the world. They don't have to work. They don't have to train. They don't have to deal with the stress of new ventures. But they do. They wake up early, they take the risks, and they put themselves in the line of fire. Why? Because they know that the cost of comfort is the loss of their edge. The friction of greatness. There is a specific kind of discomfort that comes with pursuing a big goal. It's the discomfort of being misunderstood. It's the discomfort of being judged. It's the discomfort of being the only one working while everyone else is partying. Most people quit because they cannot handle the social discomfort of being different. They want the diamond of success, but they aren't willing to endure the pressure of being an outlier. Mental toughness means being okay with being the weirdo. It means being comfortable with the silence of the early morning or the late night. It means being okay with the fact that your friends might not understand why you're working so hard. Growth begins when excuses end. Reframing pain. To get comfortable being uncomfortable, you must change your relationship with pain. To the average person, pain is a stop sign. It means something is wrong. To the winner, pain is a green light. It means I'm making progress. When your muscles burn during a lift, that's not damage, that's transformation. When your brain hurts while learning a new skill, that's not stupidity, that's neuroplasticity. When your heart races during a high-stakes moment, that's not fear, that's your body preparing you for battle. If you aren't experiencing some form of discomfort on a daily basis, you are standing still. And in a world that is moving as fast as ours, standing still is the same as moving backward. The 40% rule. There is a concept used by elite endurance athletes, the 40% rule. It states that when your mind tells you that you are finished, when you feel like you cannot take one more step, do one more rep, or work one more hour, you are actually only at about 40% of your true capacity. The remaining 60% is stored in a reserve tank that your brain keeps locked away for emergencies. Mental toughness is the ability to pick the lock on that tank. The only way to access that 60% is to stay in the discomfort. If you quit the moment you feel done, you will never know what you are truly capable of. You will live and die at 40%. Winners push through the 40% wall. They stay in the fire until the fire becomes normal. They train themselves to thrive in the red zone. Chapter summary and anchor. As we end this chapter, I want you to audit your life. Where have you become too comfortable? Where are you avoiding the friction? Is there a task you've been putting off because it's hard? Is there a habit you've been avoiding because it's unpleasant? Is there a level of performance you've been avoiding because of the stress it brings? Whatever it is, that is exactly where you need to go. Mental toughness is not a gift. It is a choice. It is the choice to say, I would rather be exhausted and growing than comfortable and decaying. From this day forward, stop running from the heat. Stop hiding from the pressure. Repetition. Pressure builds diamonds. Mental toughness is tolerance training. The more discomfort you survive, the stronger you become. If you want to be in the top 1%, you must be willing to do what the 99% are too soft to do. You must go where the friction is. You must seek out the struggle. Get comfortable being uncomfortable, because that is the only place where winners are made. Chapter 4. Stop seeking validation. The approval addiction. We live in an era of unprecedented visibility. We carry devices in our pockets that allow us to broadcast every meal, every workout, every minor success, and every fleeting thought to a global audience in a matter of seconds. And with that capability has come a dangerous, soul-sucking addiction, the need for validation. Most people are performing for an audience that isn't even paying attention. They are tethered to the like button, the comment section, and the nod of approval from their peers. They have outsourced their self-worth to the opinions of people who don't even know their middle names. If you want to be a winner, if you want to develop the kind of mental toughness that separates you from the masses, you must break this addiction. You must realize that approval addiction weakens decision-making. When you need applause to move forward, you are no longer the captain of your ship. You are a passenger waiting for the crowd to tell you which way to steer. The dilution of power. Think about your energy as a finite resource. Every time you seek validation, every time you tell someone your big plans just to see their eyes light up, or every time you post a progress photo to get a hit of dopamine, you are leaking energy. Psychologists have found a phenomenon called social reality. When you share your goals with others and they praise you for them, your brain receives a premature reward. It feels as though you've already achieved the goal. The tension that was supposed to drive you to do the work is released. You feel satisfied before you've even started. This is why so many people talk about their dreams but never execute them. They've already spent the satisfaction by talking about it. They've diluted their power. Winners move in a different way. They don't need you to believe in them. They don't need you to see what they are doing. They don't need your good job to keep going. They have an internal engine that is fueled by their own standards, not by your applause. Repetitive phrase. Build in silence. Let results speak. The internal scorecard. The legendary investor Warren Buffett often speaks about the inner scorecard versus the outer scorecard. The outer scorecard is how the world sees you. It's the titles, the trophies, the social media following, and the public opinion. The inner scorecard is how you see yourself. It's the knowledge that you did the work when no one was watching. It's the integrity of knowing you didn't cut corners. Mentally tough people live by the inner scorecard. If the world thinks you are a genius, but you know you were lazy and got lucky, a person with an inner scorecard feels like a failure. Conversely, if the world thinks you are a failure, but you know you executed your plan with 100% discipline, a person with an inner scorecard feels like a winner. When you stop seeking validation, you reclaim your freedom. You no longer have to explain yourself. You no longer have to justify your path. You can focus entirely on the execution. Case study: the quiet builder. Consider the story of a quiet builder. Imagine a man who decides to build a revolutionary software company. For the first 3 years, he lives in a cramped apartment. He doesn't go to parties. He doesn't post hustle quotes on Instagram. His friends think he's lost his mind. His family asks when he's going to get a real job. He has zero public validation. In fact, he has the opposite. He has public skepticism. But he doesn't care. He isn't building for them. He is building for the result. He spends 12 hours a day coding, testing, and failing. He is callousing his mind against the need for approval. 5 years later, he emerges. He launches. The product changes an industry. Suddenly, the same people who doubted him are the ones calling him a genius and an overnight success. He doesn't care about their praise now, just as he didn't care about their doubt then. He is the same man. He moved in silence, and he let his results do all the talking. This is the path of the winner. Build in silence. Let results speak. The trap of performative hustle. In our modern culture, we have created something called performative hustle. This is the act of looking busy rather than being productive. It's the person who spends an hour setting up the perfect workspace photo with a coffee and a laptop, only to spend 20 minutes actually working. They are seeking the validation of being a hard worker without actually doing the hard work. Mental toughness is the opposite of performance. It is raw. It is ugly. It is often boring. Real work doesn't look good in a photo. Real work is a person staring at a screen, or lifting a weight, or practicing a speech until their eyes burn and their muscles ache. There is no audience for that. If you find yourself wanting to show people how hard you are working, stop. Ask yourself why. If you are doing it for the work itself is enough. If you are doing it for the like, you are weak. You are still a child looking for a gold star from a teacher. Grow up. The world doesn't owe you a gold star. It only owes you the results you earn. Killing the need for applause. How do you break the cycle of validation seeking? It starts with a fast from external approval. Stop announcing your goals. For the next 30 days, don't tell anyone what you are working on. Don't tell your partner, don't tell your friends, and certainly don't tell the internet. Keep the fire inside you. Let the pressure build. Use that pressure to fuel the work. Audit your intentions. Before you post anything online or share a success, ask, am I sharing this to provide value, or am I sharing this to get a pat on the back? If it's the latter, delete the draft. Find validation in the work. Learn to love the feeling of a finished task. The validation should come from the checked box on your to-do list, not from the comment section. When you learn to work without an audience, you become unstoppable. Because if you don't need their cheers to start, you won't need their cheers to finish. And more importantly, their boos won't be able to stop you. The weakness of the loud. Have you ever noticed that the most insecure people are often the loudest? They are the ones constantly bragging about their connections, their money, or their grind. They are desperate for you to see them as a winner because, deep down, they don't believe they are one. The truly tough move with a quiet confidence. They don't need to bark because they know they can bite. They have nothing to prove to you because they have already proved it to themselves. Think of a lion. A lion doesn't have to tell you it's a lion. It doesn't need a Lion of the Year award. It just walks through the savannah, and every other animal moves out of the way. Its presence is its validation. You want your results to have that same presence. You want your bank account, your physique, your business, and your character to be so undeniable that you never have to utter a single word to justify your existence. Build in silence. Let results speak. Dealing with criticism and doubt. When you stop seeking validation, you also become immune to criticism. Validation and criticism are two sides of the same coin. If you give people the power to make your day with a compliment, you are also giving them the power to ruin your day with an insult. You cannot have one without the other. When you retract your need for approval, you also retract their ability to hurt you. If their yes doesn't matter, then their no doesn't matter either. Mentally tough people treat both praise and criticism as noise. They listen for constructive feedback that can help them improve the work, but they discard anything that is directed at their ego. If someone says, your business model is flawed because of X, Y, and Z, a winner listens. That's data. If someone says, you're an idiot for trying that, a winner ignores it. That's noise. The solitary path. The path to the top is often a lonely one. Most people will not understand your obsession. They will not understand why you are skipping the party to study. They will not understand why you are investing your money instead of buying a new car. They will try to pull you back down to their level. They will call you boring or arrogant or too serious. This is the ultimate test of validation. Can you stand alone? Can you be the only person in the room who believes in what you are doing? If you need the group to agree with you, you will never lead the group. Leadership, over your own life and over others, requires the toughness to be disliked. It requires the toughness to be misunderstood for long periods of time. Winners are okay with being the villain in someone else's story if it means they are the hero in their own. Chapter summary and anchor. Validation is a drug. It feels good in the short term, but it leaves you hollow and weak in the long term. It turns you into a performer instead of a producer. To separate yourself from everyone else, you must go into the dark. You must be willing to work for months, or even years, without a single soul cheering for you. You must become your own coach, your own fan, and your own judge. The next time you feel the urge to show off, or the urge to ask for someone's opinion on your dream, catch yourself. Close your mouth. Get back to work. The world doesn't need to see your process. It needs to see your product. Repetitive phrase. Build in silence. Let results speak. Build in silence. Let results speak. Build in silence. Let results speak. When the results finally arrive, they will be so loud that you won't need to say a word. Stop seeking validation. Start seeking mastery. The applause of the crowd is temporary, but the strength of a silent builder is permanent. Chapter 5. Master delayed gratification. The superpower of the elite. In a world that is obsessed with now, the greatest competitive advantage you can possess is the ability to wait. We live in an era of instant everything. Instant communication, instant entertainment, instant food, and instant credit. We have been conditioned to believe that if we want something, we should have it immediately. This cultural conditioning has created a generation of people who are impulsive, fragile, and financially enslaved. But if you look at the top 1% of achievers in any field, the billionaire investors, the elite athletes, the master craftsmen, you will find one common denominator. They have mastered the art of delayed gratification. Delayed gratification is the ability to resist the temptation of an immediate reward in hopes of obtaining a more valuable reward in the future. It is the ability to say no to your current self so that you can say a massive yes to your future self. Impulse is the enemy. Discipline is the advantage. The marshmallow test and beyond. You may have heard of the famous Stanford marshmallow experiment. A child is placed in a room with a single marshmallow. They are told that the adult has to leave for a few minutes, and if the child can wait until the adult returns without eating the marshmallow, they will be rewarded with a second one. The researchers followed those children for decades. What they found was staggering. The children who were able to wait for the second marshmallow, those who could delay their gratification, grew up to have higher SAT scores, lower levels of substance abuse, lower rates of obesity, and better responses to stress. Why? Because the ability to delay gratification is the ultimate indicator of self-control. It is the fundamental building block of mental toughness. If you cannot control your impulses, you cannot control your destiny. You are simply a biological machine reacting to its environment. The dopamine trap. To master delayed gratification, you must understand how you are being manipulated. Your brain is wired to seek dopamine, the pleasure chemical. In the ancestral environment, dopamine was triggered by rare things, finding a beehive full of honey or successfully hunting an animal. Today, dopamine is available on every street corner. Every notification on your phone, every like on your photo, every bite of processed sugar, and every purchase made with a credit card triggers a hit of dopamine. The problem is that dopamine is addictive. The more hits you get, the more you need. You become a dopamine chaser, constantly looking for the next quick fix. When you live in this state, you lose the ability to focus on long-term goals. You become a person who lives for the weekend, for the next meal, or for the next episode of a show. Winners have learned to bypass the cheap dopamine of the present. They find their hit in the progress of the long-term mission. They have replaced the now with the later. Repetition anchor, short-term comfort, long-term regret, or short-term pain, long-term dominance, real-world contrast, spending versus saving. Let's look at the most common arena for this battle, your finances. The average person gets a raise or a bonus and immediately thinks, what can I buy? They want the new car, the designer clothes, or the luxury vacation. They want the status that comes with looking rich right now. This is the definition of short-term comfort. But what is the cost? The cost is long-term regret. 10 years later, that car is in a junkyard, those clothes are out of style, and they are still working a job they hate because they have no financial freedom. The mentally tough person takes that same raise and thinks, how can I invest this? They keep driving the old car. They keep wearing the simple clothes. They endure the pain of looking average while they are actually becoming wealthy. They are choosing short-term pain for long-term dominance. While everyone else is enslaved to their monthly payments, the person who delayed gratification is eventually able to buy whatever they want, whenever they want, because they own their impulses instead of letting their impulses own them. Real-world contrast. Training versus skipping. Look at physical health. The impulse says, stay in bed. It's warm. You're tired. You can work out tomorrow. That is the short-term comfort. If you give in, you get an extra hour of sleep. But you also get a soft body, a lack of energy, and the quiet shame of knowing you broke a promise to yourself. That is the long-term regret. The winner gets up when the alarm goes off. They face the cold, the sweat, and the strain. That is the short-term pain. But the result is an elite physique, unbreakable confidence, and a level of health that allows them to outwork everyone else for decades. That is long-term dominance. Repetition anchor, short-term comfort, long-term regret, or short-term pain, long-term dominance. Real-world contrast, studying versus scrolling. Look at the intellectual level. You have an hour of free time. The impulse says, check your feed. See what's happening on social media. Watch some reels. It's easy. It's mindless. It's short-term comfort. But at the end of that hour, you have learned nothing. You have produced nothing. Your brain is scattered and your attention span is shorter. The mentally tough person picks up a book. They study a difficult subject. They work on their craft. It's hard. It requires deep focus. It's short-term pain. But at the end of that hour, they are 1% better than they were before. Over a year, that 1% compounds into a massive intellectual advantage. They become the expert in the room while everyone else is still scrolling. The geometry of the compound effect. Delayed gratification works because of the law of compounding. If you take $1,000 and you spend it on a new TV, you have a TV. Its value starts dropping the moment you take it out of the box. If you take that same $1,000 and you invest it at a 10% return, and you wait 30 years, that $1,000 becomes nearly $18,000. This principle applies to everything: knowledge, health, skills, and character. Small, painful sacrifices made today do not just add up, they multiply. Most people quit because they don't see the results immediately. They go to the gym for a week, they don't see a six-pack, so they quit. They save money for a month, they don't see a fortune, so they spend it. Mental toughness is the ability to look past the flat part of the curve. It is the faith to keep doing the boring, difficult work even when the results are invisible. You must understand that the dominance is being built beneath the surface long before it becomes visible to the world. Practical strategies to master the weight. How do you build this muscle? Like any other form of mental toughness, you start with representatives. The 10-minute rule: when you feel a strong impulse to do something counterproductive, to eat junk food, to check your phone, to quit a task, tell yourself you will do it in 10 minutes. Often, the peak of the impulse will pass within those 10 minutes, and your rational mind will regain control. Visualizing the two versions of you. When faced with a choice, visualize the regret version of you 5 years from now and the dominance version of you 5 years from now. Which one are you feeding with this current decision? The prepayment strategy. Don't let yourself have the reward until you have completed the pain. Don't check your phone until you've finished the first 3 tasks on your list. Don't eat dinner until you've finished your workout. Make the comfort a reward for the discipline, never the default. The advantage of no competition. One of the most beautiful things about delayed gratification is that almost no one else is doing it. The extra mile is a lonely place. The finish line of a 10-year plan is not crowded. While everyone else is competing for the scraps of immediate pleasure, you are playing a different game. By the time the now crowd realizes they have wasted their lives, you are so far ahead that they can never catch you. You haven't just won, you have dominated the field. Short-term comfort, long-term regret, or short-term pain, long-term dominance. Living for the great yes. Mental toughness isn't about being a martyr. It's not about hating your life or never having fun. It's about being smart. It's about saying no to the small yes so that you can eventually say a great yes. The small yes is the cookie. The great yes is the feeling of being in the best shape of your life at age 50. The small yes is the impulse purchase. The great yes is the freedom to retire your parents or start a foundation. The small yes is the night out at the club. The great yes is the legacy of a business built on stone. Winners are willing to look like losers in the short term so that they can be winners in the long term. They are willing to be boring now so they can be legendary later. Chapter summary and anchor. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment, and delayed gratification is the foundation of that bridge. You must audit your life right now. Where are you choosing the easy now over the great later? Is it in your diet? Is it in your screen time? Is it in your bank account? Is it in your relationships? Every time you give in to an impulse, you are voting for a future of mediocrity and regret. Every time you resist an impulse, you are voting for a future of power and dominance. Repeat this anchor to yourself whenever you feel the urge to take the easy way out. Short-term comfort, long-term regret, or short-term pain, long-term dominance. The choice is yours. You can have the marshmallow now and be like everyone else, or you can wait and own the world. Master your impulses, or they will surely master you. Chapter 6. Develop an unbreakable identity. The secret architecture of success. Why is it that two people can have the exact same goals, the same resources, and the same opportunities, yet one of them ascends to the top of the mountain while the other remains stuck at the base? Why does one person wake up at 4 a.m. for a decade without fail, while the other struggles to hit the alarm just once? The answer isn't willpower. It isn't even motivation. The answer lies in the invisible architecture of the human mind: identity. Identity is the most powerful force in the human psyche. We all have a psychological blueprint of who we believe we are. This blueprint acts as a thermostat for our lives. If you believe you are a mediocre person, your internal thermostat is set to mediocrity. If you suddenly experience a burst of success, your identity thermostat will feel the heat and immediately work to cool things down through self-sabotage, bringing you back to the level where you feel comfortable, back to being mediocre. To separate yourself from everyone else, you cannot simply change what you do. You must change who you are. You act according to who you believe you are. Identity shapes behavior. The trying trap. Most people approach change from the outside in. They say, "I'm going to try to be more disciplined." Or, "I'm trying to be a runner." Or, "I'm trying to build a business." The word try is a linguistic backdoor for failure. When you say you are trying, you are giving yourself permission to fail. You are signaling to your brain that this new behavior is not who you are. It's just something you are testing out. Your identity remains unchanged. Think about two people who are offered a cigarette while trying to quit smoking. The first person says, "No thanks, I'm trying to quit." The second person says, "No thanks, I'm not a smoker." Which one do you think is more likely to succeed? The first person still identifies as a smoker who is attempting to do something different. They are fighting an internal war against themselves. The second person has shifted their identity. Being a non-smoker is now part of their unbreakable identity. For them, refusing the cigarette isn't a struggle of willpower. It is simply a reflection of who they are. Winners don't try to be disciplined. They identify as disciplined. The evidence-based identity. You cannot lie to your own mind. You cannot simply stand in front of a mirror and chant "I am a millionaire" if your bank account is empty and you've been lazy for 3 years. Your brain will reject the lie. Identity is not built on positive thinking. It is built on evidence. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. If you want to develop an unbreakable identity, you must start providing your brain with a stack of evidence so undeniable that your identity has no choice but to shift. If you get up when your alarm goes off, that's a vote for a disciplined identity. If you finish the difficult report early, that's a vote for a high-performer identity. If you keep your word to a friend, that's a vote for an identity of integrity. Over time, as the votes accumulate, your brain begins to say, "Okay, I guess this is who we are now." This is when the magic happens. Once the identity is set, the behavior becomes automatic. You no longer have to motivate yourself to work hard. You work hard because that is what a person like you does. The identity of the non-negotiable. Mentally tough people have non-negotiables. These are behaviors that are so deeply tied to their identity that they are no longer up for debate. An average person negotiates with themselves every morning. Should I work out? I'm a little tired. Maybe I'll do it later. A winner has an identity that says, I am a person who trains. Period. There is no negotiation. You don't negotiate whether or not you're going to brush your teeth in the morning. You just do it because you are a person with basic hygiene. You must decide what your non-negotiables are. You must define the traits of your unbreakable identity. Are you the type of person who always finishes what they start? Are you the type of person who is always 5 minutes early? Are you the type of person who does the hardest task first? Once you decide, you must defend that identity with your life. Because every time you break a non-negotiable, you aren't just missing a task, you are damaging your identity. You are telling your brain that you are a fraud. And a fraud can never have mental toughness. Repetition. I am the type of person who does not quit. Identity-based transformation. Most people focus on the outcome. I want to lose 20 pounds. Some people focus on the process. I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week. The 1% focus on the identity. I am an athlete. When you focus on the outcome, you are prone to frustration when the scale doesn't move. When you focus on the process, you are prone to boredom. But when you focus on the identity, you are playing for keeps. If you identify as an athlete, you don't just go to the gym. You eat like an athlete, you sleep like an athlete, and you recover like an athlete. The 20-pound weight loss becomes an inevitable byproduct of your identity. Winners focus on the who, and the what takes care of itself. The mirror effect. Your internal dialogue. How do you speak to yourself when things go wrong? This is where your identity is truly revealed. When an average person makes a mistake, they say, I'm such an idiot. Or, I always mess things up. This is dangerous. You are reinforcing a negative identity. You are callousing your mind toward failure. When a mentally tough person makes a mistake, they separate the action from the identity. They say, that was a poor decision, and I am the type of person who learns from it and fixes it. Your internal dialogue is the script of your identity. You are the narrator of your own life. If you tell yourself you are weak, or lazy, or bad with money, you are literally programming your future failure. You must ruthlessly edit your internal script. You must adopt the language of a winner long before the world recognizes you as one. Repetition. I am the type of person who does not quit. The callus of the identity. Building an unbreakable identity requires you to survive the gap. The gap is the period of time between when you decide to change your identity and when the results actually show up. During this time, your old identity will try to pull you back. Your old friends will remind you of who you used to be. Your old habits will scream for attention. This is where mental toughness is forged. You must be willing to be an imposter for a while. You must act like the person you want to become, even when you don't feel like that person yet. Think of a soldier. When a recruit enters basic training, they aren't a soldier yet. They are a civilian in a uniform. But they are told to stand like a soldier, talk like a soldier, and follow the orders of a soldier. They do it for months. They are stripped of their old identity and forced into a new one. By the time they graduate, they don't have to try to be a soldier, they are one. You must put yourself through your own basic training. You must force yourself into the behaviors of a winner until the civilian version of you dies off and the warrior version takes over. Real-world example, the corporate climber. Consider a young professional who wants to reach the C-suite. If they identify as a low-level employee, they will act like one. They will show up just on time, they will do exactly what is asked of them, and they will wait for instructions. If they identify as a future executive, their behavior changes instantly. They dress better. They speak with more authority. They look for problems to solve before they are asked. They invest in their own education. They aren't faking it until they make it. They are living it until they become it. Their identity creates a gravitational pull that draws the promotion toward them. The identity of endurance. Success is a marathon of boredom punctuated by moments of extreme stress. To survive it, you need an identity that is centered on endurance. Average people identify with their comfort. They say, I'm the type of person who needs my 8 hours of sleep. Or, I'm the type of person who needs to relax on weekends. Winners identify with their resilience. They say, I am the type of person who can outlast anyone. When you believe that your primary trait is your ability to endure, then pain and fatigue no longer threaten you. They actually validate you. When it gets hard, the mentally tough person smiles and says, good, this is where I prove who I am. If it were easy, it wouldn't help your identity. The hardship is the very thing that stamps the identity into your soul, rewriting your blueprint. As we conclude this chapter, I want you to take a hard look at your current identity. Who do you believe you are? Are you a procrastinator? Are you just okay? Are you someone who struggles? Whatever it is, realize that it is just a story you have been telling yourself, and you can change the story today. Define the winner. Write down the 5 traits of the person you want to become. Act for evidence. Do one thing today that provides evidence for those traits. Use the I am command. Every time you face a challenge, repeat your identity anchor. Repetition. I am the type of person who does not quit. Repetition. I am the type of person who does not quit. Repetition. I am the type of person who does not quit. Identity-based transformation is the only way to make success permanent. If you only change your actions, you will eventually drift back to your old self. But if you change your identity, you will never look back. Winners don't need a map because they know who they are. They are the type of people who find a way. Develop an unbreakable identity. Become the person who is incapable of losing. Chapter 7. Silence your inner weak voice. The enemy within. Every single person listening to this, from the world-class CEO to the person just starting their fitness journey, shares a common experience. We all have a roommate living inside our heads that we didn't invite. This roommate is loud, persistent, and incredibly persuasive. It is the inner weak voice. This voice is the personification of your ancient, survival-based brain. Its only goal is to keep you safe, comfortable, and sedentary. It hates effort. It loathes risk. It is terrified of discomfort. While the winner's voice inside you speaks of legacy, discipline, and growth, the weak voice speaks of shortcuts, excuses, and deserved breaks. The internal dialogue you have with this voice determines your endurance in every arena of life. Most people fail not because they lack the physical ability or the resources to win, but because they negotiate with weakness. They allow the weak voice to take the witness stand, and they actually listen to its testimony. To separate yourself from everyone else, you must learn to identify this voice the moment it speaks, recognize its tactics, and shut it down with cold, clinical efficiency. The art of the internal negotiation. The inner weak voice is a master negotiator. It rarely tells you to quit forever. That would be too obvious. Your ego would fight back. Instead, it uses a much more subtle and dangerous strategy. The strategy of just hit the snooze button once. You'll be more productive if you have 10 more minutes of sleep. Just skip the last set. You've already done 4, that's more than most people do. Just check your phone for a second. You've been working hard. You deserve a distraction. Just eat this one meal. You'll start the diet for real on Monday. Do you hear the logic? The weak voice doesn't sound like a monster. It sounds like a reasonable friend. It uses logic to justify mediocrity. It frames your weakness as self-care or being realistic. But make no mistake, the moment you begin a dialogue with the weak voice, you have already lost. You cannot out-argue it because it has access to all your insecurities. You cannot win a debate against your own comfort-seeking brain. Mental toughness is the refusal to enter the negotiation in the first place. Repetition command. Not today. Not today. Not today. Case study. The mile 8 wall. Consider the runner. Let's place you at mile 8 of a grueling 10-mile run. Your lungs feel like they are filled with hot sand. Your quads are screaming. Your heart is hammering against your ribs like a trapped bird. This is where the weak voice thrives. It begins its closing argument. It says, your heart rate is too high. You might actually hurt yourself. Why are you doing this anyway? You aren't a professional athlete. No one is watching. If you walk for just 60 seconds, you can catch your breath and then finish strong. The average person hears this and thinks, that makes sense. I don't want to overtrain. They slow down. They walk. And in that moment, they haven't just slowed their pace. They have reinforced a neurological pathway that says, when it gets hard, we negotiate. The winner hears the same voice. They feel the same pain. But they have a preset command. They don't analyze the pain. They don't check their heart rate. They don't look at their watch. They simply identify the voice as the enemy and say, not today. They don't promise to run mile 9. They don't think about the finish line. They just refuse to negotiate this step. They shut down the dialogue. They move from the mind into the body. They become a machine that only knows forward motion. The tactics of the weak voice. To silence the voice, you must understand its weapons. The weak voice uses 3 primary tactics. 1. Comparison to the bottom. The voice will tell you, look at everyone else. They aren't working this hard. You're already doing more than 90% of people. It's okay to relax. The counter. Winners do not compare themselves to the bottom 90%. They compare themselves to their own potential. The winner's voice says, what is 100% of my capacity? 2. The deserved reward. The voice says, you've had a long day. You were so disciplined yesterday. You've earned a break. The counter. Discipline is not a bucket that you fill up and then empty. It is a state of being. You don't earn the right to be weak. You earn the right to be stronger. 3. The myth of tomorrow. This is the most common tactic. We will do it tomorrow when we have more energy. We will start fresh when the conditions are better. The counter. Tomorrow is the graveyard of dreams. The only time that exists for a winner is now. The not today protocol. How do you practically silence the voice when it starts screaming? You need a circuit breaker. You need a word or phrase that acts as a stop sign for your thoughts. For many, that phrase is not today. When the alarm goes off and the voice says, it's raining, stay in bed, you don't argue. You don't think about the rain. You say not today and your feet hit the floor. When you are halfway through a project and the voice says, this is boring, let's check YouTube, you say not today and you type the next sentence. When you are tempted to lash out in anger and the voice says, they deserve to be put in their place, you say not today and you choose silence. This is not a suggestion. It is a command. You are the commander-in-chief of your mind. The weak voice is a rogue soldier. You do not debate with a rogue soldier. You give an order and you expect it to be followed. Repetition command. Not today. Not today. Not today. The weak voice is a liar. You must realize that the weak voice is a liar. It tells you that you are at your limit when you are only at 40%. It tells you that you will be happy once you relax, but the truth is that the most miserable people are those who have no discipline. Think back to a time when you gave in to the weak voice. Maybe you skipped a workout, or you ate the junk food, or you procrastinated on a goal. How did you feel 30 minutes later? Did you feel refreshed? Did you feel rewarded? No. You felt heavy. You felt guilty. You felt like a fraud. Now, think back to a time when the weak voice was screaming for you to quit, but you pushed through anyway. How did you feel when you finished? You felt like a god. You felt invincible. You felt a level of self-respect that no comfort could ever provide. The winner's voice leads to self-respect. The weak voice leads to self-loathing. Choose which one you want to live with. Callousing the mind against negotiation. Every time you silence the weak voice, you are callousing your mind. Just as a weightlifter develops thick skin on their palms to handle the friction of the iron, you develop a mental callus every time you refuse to negotiate. Eventually, the weak voice doesn't go away, it never fully disappears, but it becomes quieter. It becomes easier to ignore. It knows that you are no longer a soft target. If you negotiate with weakness once, you will negotiate twice. If you negotiate twice, it becomes a habit. And if it becomes a habit, it becomes your identity. This is why winners are so intense about the small things. They aren't just obsessed with the workout or the diet. They are obsessed with not losing the internal argument. They know that if they let the weak voice win the snooze button argument, it will be much harder to beat it in the million-dollar business argument. The small wins are the foundation for the big victories. Silence is a choice. Mental toughness is often seen as a loud, aggressive trait. We think of people shouting or grunting in the gym. But true mental toughness is actually very quiet. It is the silent refusal to entertain a thought that doesn't serve you. It is the ability to sit in a room, feel the urge to be distracted, and stay focused. It is the ability to feel the pain in your legs and keep your pace. It is the ability to feel the fear of a new venture and sign the papers anyway. The most powerful thing you can do is to become a silent operator. Don't announce that you are being tough. Don't post about how hard you are working. Just do the work. When the weak voice speaks, shut it down internally. The world should only see the result. They should never see the struggle you had with the roommate in your head. The runner's high of discipline. There is a specific kind of joy that comes from silencing the weak voice. It's better than any drug. It's the discipline high. It's that moment when you finish the task you didn't want to do, and you realize that you are the master of your own soul. You realize that your body and your emotions are just tools, and you are the one holding the handle. When you reach this state, you become dangerous to your competition. Because while they are still negotiating with their fatigue, you have already moved past yours. While they are still weighing the pros and cons of working hard, you have already finished the work. Repetition, the weak voice speaks. You shut it down. Not today. Chapter summary and anchor. Your internal dialogue determines your endurance. If you allow yourself to be a reasonable person who listens to logical excuses, you will be an average person. Winners are unreasonable. They are illogical. They do things that don't make sense to the comfort-seeking brain. From this point forward, pay attention to the dialogue. Hear the voice when it says just this once. Hear the voice when it says tomorrow. Hear the voice when it says you've done enough. Identify it. Call it by its name, the weak voice. And then, use your circuit breaker. Don't negotiate. Don't explain. Don't argue. Just move. Repetition command. Not today. The weak voice speaks. You shut it down. The last person standing is the one who refused to listen to the person who told them to sit. Silence the weakness. Find the winner. Chapter 8. Take responsibility for everything. The ultimate power move. The most common human reflex is to point a finger. When things go wrong, when a project fails, when a relationship ends, when a bank account is empty, or when a goal is missed, our natural instinct is to look outward. We look for a scapegoat. We blame the economy. We blame our parents. We blame our boss, our genetics, our lack of time, or just bad luck. But there is a fundamental law of mental toughness that you must accept if you want to join the ranks of the elite. Blame keeps you powerless. Ownership gives you control. The moment you blame an external force for your situation, you have effectively admitted that you are a victim. You have stated, out loud, that your life is being directed by forces beyond your command. If someone else is the reason you are failing, then you must wait for them to change before you can succeed. You are putting your destiny in the hands of people who likely don't care about your future. Winners don't have time to be victims. They understand that total responsibility is the ultimate power move. By taking responsibility for everything in your life, even the things that aren't technically your fault, you reclaim the power to change them. Repetition. If it's my fault, I can fix it. If it's my fault, I can fix it. The internal locus of control. Psychologists speak about the locus of control. People with an external locus believe that life happens to them. They feel like a leaf in a storm, tossed around by the winds of fate. People with an internal locus believe that they are the ones making life happen. They believe they are the ones holding the fan that creates the wind. Mentally tough people have a radical internal locus of control. They believe that even if they didn't cause the problem, they are responsible for the solution. Think about a car accident where someone rear-ends you while you are stopped at a light. Technically, it is their fault. The law says they are to blame. But the mentally tough person asks, why was I in that lane? Was I distracted? Could I have seen them coming in my rearview mirror and pulled onto the shoulder? Did I choose to drive in a high-traffic area at a dangerous time? This might sound extreme. It might even sound unfair. But winners don't care about fair. They care about effective. By looking for their own role in the accident, they ensure they are more aware, more prepared, and more proactive in the future. They take a situation where they were a victim and they turn it into a lesson in mastery. Winners ask, "What could I have done better?" In the wake of a failure, there are two questions that define your character. The loser asks, "Who is at fault?" This question is designed to protect the ego. It is a search for a shield. When you find someone to blame, your ego feels safe. You can say, "It wasn't me," and go back to sleep. But you haven't grown. You haven't learned. You've just successfully avoided progress. The winner asks, "What could I have done better?" This question is a surgical strike on weakness. It ignores the external factors and focuses entirely on the variables within your control. Imagine a sales team that misses its quarterly target. The average manager says, "The leads were bad. The marketing department failed us. The economy is in a downturn." The mentally tough leader says, "I didn't train my people well enough to handle objections. I didn't push for a higher volume of calls. I didn't pivot our strategy fast enough when I saw the numbers dipping." Who do you think is going to win next quarter? The person who waited for better leads, or the person who improved their training and work ethic? Repetition. If it's my fault, I can fix it. The poison of "yeah, but." One of the clearest signs of a weak mind is the phrase "yeah, but." I want to start a business, yeah, but I don't have the capital. I want to get in shape, yeah, but I have bad knees. I want to be a better leader, yeah, but my team is lazy. Every "but" is a brick in the wall of your own prison. It is an excuse disguised as a reason. When you use the "yeah, but" defense, you are negotiating for your own limitations. You are fighting for the right to remain exactly where you are. Mental toughness requires you to burn the "yeah, but" bridge. Replace it with "and so." I don't have the capital, and so I will work a second job and save every penny until I do. I have bad knees, and so I will find a low-impact workout and fix my nutrition with 100% discipline. My team is lazy, and so I will set a higher standard of performance and lead by such a powerful example that they have no choice but to keep up or quit. Ownership is the difference between being a spectator and being the protagonist of your own story. Responsibility in relationships. This principle doesn't just apply to business and fitness, it applies to your personal life. Most relationship conflicts are a blame war. Each person is waiting for the other to apologize, to change, or to realize their mistake. A mentally tough person looks at a failing relationship and asks, "What am I doing to contribute to this friction? Am I communicating clearly? Am I holding on to ego? Am I being the type of partner that I would want to have?" When you take 100% responsibility for the relationship, even if you feel you are only 50% of the problem, you break the deadlock. You stop waiting for a change and you become the change. You find that when you move, the people around you are forced to move as well. The myth of luck. We love to talk about luck. We talk about getting a big break or having a string of bad luck. But to the mentally tough, luck is just a variable that you didn't account for. If you lose your job because of a bad economy, you didn't have bad luck. You failed to make yourself indispensable, or you failed to have a 6-month emergency fund. If you lose a game because of a bad call by a referee, you didn't have bad luck. You failed to play well enough to ensure the game didn't come down to a single call. Winners overbuild their success so that luck becomes irrelevant. They work so hard and prepare so thoroughly that even if a bad break happens, they have enough momentum to plow right through it. When you take responsibility for luck, you stop being a gambler and you start being an architect. Owning your health and energy. Stop blaming your metabolism. Stop blaming your busy schedule. Stop blaming your genetics. Your body is the physical manifestation of your daily choices. Every bite of food, every minute of sleep, and every drop of sweat is a choice. If you are out of shape, it is because you chose to be out of shape. This sounds harsh, but it is actually the most hopeful thing you will ever hear. Because if you chose to be out of shape, you can choose to be an athlete. If you take responsibility for your health, you no longer look for fad diets or magic pills. You look at your habits. You look at your discipline. You look at the mirror and you say, I am the reason for this, and therefore I am the solution to this. Repetition. If it's my fault, I can fix it. The burden of command. In the military, there is a concept called total accountability. If a soldier in a platoon makes a mistake, the commanding officer is the one who is punished. Why? Because it was the officer's job to ensure the soldier was trained, motivated, and supervised. You must be the commanding officer of your own life. You are responsible for the people you hang out with. If they are losers, that's your fault. You are responsible for the information you consume. If you are distracted, that's your fault. You are responsible for the way you react to trauma. If you are bitter, that's your fault. Taking responsibility doesn't mean you are to blame for the bad things that happened to you in the past. It means you are responsible for the way you handle them in the present. You may not have been responsible for the wound, but you are 100% responsible for the healing. The freedom of no excuses. There is a profound sense of peace that comes with total responsibility. When you stop making excuses, you stop feeling anxious. Anxiety is often the result of feeling like you have no control. When you say, everything is my fault, you suddenly have all the control in the world. You are no longer waiting for the government to fix the economy. You are no longer waiting for your boss to recognize your potential. You are no longer waiting for the perfect time. You become a fixer. You see a problem, you look for your role in it, and you fix it. Real-world example. A young entrepreneur launches a product and it gets 0 sales. The loser mindset. The market just doesn't understand my genius. People are cheap. The algorithm is suppressing my posts. The winner mindset. My marketing was weak. My product didn't solve a real problem. My sales copy didn't connect with the customer. I'm going to study marketing for 4 hours a day until I fix this. The first person stays broke. The second person becomes a millionaire. Chapter summary and anchor. Responsibility is the foundation of mental toughness. Without it, all the discipline and focus in the world won't save you, because you will always find a reason to let yourself off the hook. Winners ask, what could I have done better? Losers ask, who is at fault? Today, I want you to look at the area of your life where you are the most frustrated. Is it your career? Is it your bank account? Is it your marriage? Is it your health? Now, I want you to strip away every external excuse. I want you to assume, for a moment, that the situation is 100% your fault. Write down 3 things you did or didn't do that contributed to this problem. Then, write down 3 things you can do today to start fixing it. Stop being a victim of your circumstances and start being the creator of your results. The world doesn't care about your reasons. It only cares about your results. And you only get results when you take ownership. Carry this phrase with you like a weapon. Use it every time you feel the urge to complain. Repetition. If it's my fault, I can fix it. Ownership is power. Responsibility is freedom. Take it all. Chapter 9. Stay consistent when it's boring. The myth of the epic montage. In the movies, success looks like a 3-minute montage. We see the protagonist decide to change their life, and suddenly a high-energy rock song starts playing. We see a flash of them lifting weights, a 2-second clip of them staring intensely at a computer screen, a quick shot of them running in the rain, and then, boom, the music swells, and they are standing on top of the podium, holding the trophy or the oversized check. But real life has no soundtrack. Real life has no fast-forward button. Between the moment you decide to be great and the moment you actually become great, there are thousands of hours of absolute, crushing boredom. Mental toughness is often portrayed as the ability to perform under extreme pressure or to survive a massive crisis. And while that is true, the highest form of mental toughness is much less glamorous. It is the ability to stay consistent when the novelty has worn off. It is the ability to show up and do the same boring fundamentals day after day, month after month, year after year, long after the applause has died down and the excitement has evaporated. Success is repetitive. It is not glamorous. Boring builds empires. The seduction of novelty. Human beings are wired for novelty. Our brains are designed to seek out new stimuli, new environments, and new challenges. This was a survival mechanism for our ancestors. New usually meant a potential resource or a potential threat. In the modern world, this translates into shiny object syndrome. We love starting things. We love the new year, new me energy of January 1st. We love the first week of a new business venture or the first month of a new relationship. During these phases, we are fueled by dopamine, the brain's anticipation chemical. But dopamine is a short-term fuel. Eventually, the new car smell fades. The business becomes about spreadsheets and customer complaints. The gym becomes about sore joints and the same four walls. The creative project becomes about fixing the same sentence for the 10th time. This is the valley of boredom. This is where 99% of people quit. They think that because they are bored, they must be on the wrong path. They think that because the excitement is gone, the passion is gone. So they quit and go look for a new shiny object to start the cycle all over again. Winners understand that boredom is the gatekeeper of greatness. If you want to get to the 1% results, you have to pass through the boredom that the other 99% couldn't survive. The monotony of excellence. Sociologist Dan Chambliss once conducted a famous study on Olympic swimmers to find the secret to their success. He expected to find some mystical talent or a secret training method. What he found was much more profound and much more boring. He called it the mundanity of excellence. He discovered that excellence is not the result of one giant, heroic act. It is the result of dozens of tiny, mundane, boring actions done perfectly every single day. It's the way they tuck their chin. It's the way they hit the water. It's the exact time they go to bed. It's the exact food they eat. There is nothing exciting about doing 500 laps of the same pool. There is nothing heroic about choosing broccoli over pizza for the 1000th time. But the accumulation of those boring, mundane choices is what creates an Olympic champion. Repetition anchor. Boring builds empires. Boring builds empires. Real-world example. The fundamentals of greatness. Look at Kobe Bryant, one of the most mentally tough athletes to ever live. There is a famous story about a trainer who went to work out with Kobe at 4 a.m. He arrived and expected to see Kobe doing high flying, highlight reel dowsing and complex moves. Instead, he saw Kobe doing the most basic footwork drills imaginable. For 2 hours, the best basketball player in the world was doing the same basic pivots and jab steps that are taught to middle schoolers. The trainer asked him, "Why are you doing the basics? You're the best in the world." Kobe replied, "Why do you think I'm the best in the world? Because I never get bored with the basics." Most people get too good for the fundamentals. They want to move on to the advanced stuff because the advanced stuff feels more exciting. They want the complex trading strategy, the biohacking supplements, or the secret marketing funnel. But mental toughness is the discipline to stay in the boring fundamentals until they are flawless. Whether you are a surgeon, a coder, a parent, or an athlete, your empire is built on the things you do when no one is watching and no one is cheering. The plateau of latent potential. One of the hardest parts of staying consistent is that progress is rarely linear. Imagine a block of ice sitting in a room that is 25 degrees Fahrenheit. You start heating the room. 26 degrees. Nothing happens. 27 degrees. Nothing happens. 30 degrees. Still a solid block of ice. 31 degrees. Nothing. To an outside observer, it looks like you are wasting your time. You are doing the work, you are increasing the heat, but you have zero results to show for it. This is where the weak voice says, "This isn't working. Let's quit." Then, you hit 32 degrees. Suddenly, the ice begins to melt. A 1-degree shift, the same amount of energy as the previous shifts, unlocks a total transformation. This is the plateau of latent potential. Your work is not being wasted, it is being stored. All those boring days where you showed up and saw no progress were necessary to reach the breakthrough point. If you quit at 31 degrees because you were bored or frustrated, you will never know that you were only 1 degree away from changing your life. Mental toughness thrives in monotony. It is the ability to keep heating the room when the ice isn't melting yet. The creator's consistency. Look at the world of content creation or business. You see a YouTuber with 10 million subscribers or a business owner with a global brand. You see the empire. What you don't see are the first 200 videos that got 10 views each. You don't see the years of posting to a ghost town. You don't see the thousands of boring hours spent editing, cold calling, or refining a product that no one seemed to want. The difference between the person who succeeds and the person who fails is often just survival. The winner was the one who was willing to be boring for 6 months longer than the competition. If you are a creator, your job isn't to be viral every day. Your job is to be consistent every day. The viral moments are just the interest payments on the capital of consistency you've been building for years. Falling in love with the process. How do you survive the boredom? You have to shift your focus from the goal to the process. If you are only focused on the goal, the $1 million, the championship, the dream house, then every day that you don't have those things feels like a failure. This makes the boring work feel like a chore. But if you fall in love with the process, the act of writing, the feeling of the weights, the rhythm of the sales calls, then the boredom disappears. You aren't waiting for success. You are experiencing success every time you follow your discipline. A mentally tough person finds a strange kind of peace in the routine. They don't need the high of a big win every day. They get their satisfaction from knowing that they did what they said they were going to do. They find pride in the boring work because they know that boring is the blueprint for a legacy. The danger of intensity over consistency. We often mistake intensity for toughness. We think the person who works 20 hours for one day is tougher than the person who works 8 hours every day for a year. Intensity is easy. Anyone can have a beast mode day when they are motivated. But intensity doesn't build empires. It builds burnouts. Consistency is the real test. Consistency is doing the 8 hours on the days you have a headache, the days the kids are sick, and the days you just don't feel like it. Think of a dripping faucet. A single drop of water is nothing. But if that faucet drips consistently, 1 drop at a time, it can eventually fill a bucket, then a bathtub, and eventually, it can erode a hole through solid rock. The rock isn't broken by the power of the water. It is broken by the frequency of the water. You are the water. The boring daily tasks are the drops. Your competition is the rock. You don't need to be a tidal wave. You just need to never stop dripping. Boring builds empires. Practicing the boring representatives. How do you build this in your own life? Lower the bar for entry. If you find a task so boring you keep avoiding it, make the minimum requirement so small it's impossible to fail. Tell yourself you will only do 2 minutes of it. Once you start, the boredom usually dissipates. Track the streak, not the result. Get a calendar and put an X on every day you complete your boring fundamental task. Your only job is to not break the chain. The visual evidence of your consistency will eventually become more motivating than the goal itself. Find the deep work state. Boredom often comes from shallow work, being distracted by notifications or multitasking. When you commit to deep work, total immersion in one task, the boredom often transforms into a state of flow. The boring advantage. While everyone else is looking for a hack, a shortcut, or a quantum leap, you are going to win by being the most consistently boring person in your field. You are going to win because you did the drills when they were no longer fun. You are going to win because you stayed at the desk when the sun was shining outside. You are going to win because you stuck to the plan while everyone else was chasing the new trend. Mental toughness is the ability to withstand the vacuum of excitement. It is the ability to operate in the silence. Chapter summary and anchor. Success is not a sprint, it's a marathon of mundane tasks. The magic you are looking for is found in the work you are avoiding because it is too simple or too boring. If you want the empire, you must love the bricks. You must love the mortar. You must love the thousands of hours of repetitive, unglamorous labor that goes into laying a foundation that will never be seen by the public. Audit your life right now. What boring task have you been neglecting? What fundamental have you stopped practicing because you think you're above it? Go back to the basics. Go back to the routine. Repetition anchor. Boring builds empires. Mental toughness thrives in monotony. The person who can stay consistent when it's boring will eventually be the person that everyone else calls lucky. But you'll know the truth. You just outlasted the boredom. Chapter 10. Endure longer than everyone else. The final filter. We have reached the end of the journey, but for the winner, the journey never truly ends. We have talked about taking action, controlling emotions, seeking discomfort, and building an unbreakable identity. But all of those traits serve a single, final objective: the ability to endure. In the world of high performance, there is a final filter that separates the greats from the almost greats. It isn't intelligence. It isn't talent. It isn't even luck. It is the simple, brutal capacity to stay in the fight longer than everyone else. Most people are sprinters in a world that is a marathon. They start with high energy and big dreams, but as soon as the oxygen gets thin, as soon as the muscles start to burn, and as soon as the results stop coming, they drop out. They look for a graceful exit. They find a logical reason to stop. But winners have a different relationship with the finish line. They don't look for the exit, they look for the wall. They know that the wall is where the real competition begins. Final reinforcement: outlast, outwork, outgrow. The last person standing wins. The 40% rule, your hidden reserve. As we touched on in earlier chapters, the Navy SEALs have a concept known as the 40% rule. It is a psychological law that states that when your mind tells you that you are finished, when you feel you have given everything you have, you are actually only at about 40% of your true capacity. Your brain is a survival organ. It is designed to prevent you from reaching total exhaustion because, in the wild, total exhaustion meant death. Your brain creates false limits. It sends signals of pain, fatigue, and despair to trick you into stopping while you still have 60% left in the tank. Most people live and die in that 40% zone. They hit the first wall of resistance and assume that is the limit of human potential. They spend their entire lives wondering what they could have been, never realizing they had a massive reservoir of power locked away behind a door they were too scared to push. Mental toughness is the ability to ignore the governor on your engine. It is the ability to feel the 40% alarm going off and say, "Thank you for the notification, but we are going for the other 60%. When you push past that perceived limit, you enter a dark room of endurance. It isn't fun. It isn't pretty. But it is the only place where true greatness is forged. Pain tolerance as a competitive advantage. In business, in sports, and in life, we often look for leverage. We look for better technology, more capital, or better connections. But the ultimate leverage is your pain threshold. If you and your competitor are chasing the same goal, and you are both equally talented, who wins? The one who can suffer longer. If your competitor is willing to work 12 hours a day, but you are willing to work 16, and do it for 10 years, you will eventually win. Not because you are smarter, but because you outlasted them. You were willing to endure the boredom, the isolation, and the fatigue that made them quit. Mental toughness is the realization that suffering is a competitive advantage. If a task is so hard, so painful, and so exhausting that 99% of people quit, then finishing that task automatically places you in the top 1%. You don't even have to be the best at the task. You just have to be the one who didn't quit. When things get difficult, the mentally tough person doesn't ask, "When will this be over?" They look around at the competition and think, "I bet they're getting ready to quit right now. This is my chance to pass them." The psychology of the breaking point. Every person has a breaking point. But for the average person, the breaking point is a static line. They hit it and they stop. For the winner, the breaking point is a dynamic line. Every time they hit it, they push it back a few more inches. Think of your endurance like a rubber band. If you never stretch it, it remains small and tight. If you stretch it to its limit and hold it there, it eventually expands. The first time you face a massive setback, it might break you. You might stay in bed for a week. But if you have the toughness to get back up and face it again, your stretching begins. The next time a similar setback hits, you don't stay in bed for a week. You stay in bed for a day. The time after that, you don't stay in bed at all, you go straight to work. You have outgrown the problem. Your capacity for endurance has expanded. Outlast, outwork, outgrow. the second wind and the gift of exhaustion. There is a phenomenon in endurance sports called the second wind. It is that moment when, after a period of intense struggle and near collapse, the body suddenly finds a new source of energy. The pain doesn't go away, but the body adapts to it. The mind becomes calm. The rhythm becomes automatic. This doesn't just happen in running. It happens in your career. It happens in your creative life. It happens in your personal development. There is a gift that only comes at the point of total exhaustion. When you are so tired that you can no longer overthink, your ego finally shuts up. Your inner weak voice runs out of breath. All that is left is the raw, pure essence of your will. In this state, you discover who you really are. You discover that you don't need the comfort you thought you needed. You don't need the validation you thought you needed. You just need to take the next step. Winners seek this state. They know that you cannot find your true self in the safety of the 40% zone. You only find yourself at the 90% mark, where the air is thin and the light is dim. Case study: the endurance of the underdog. Think about the great comeback stories in history. Consider a business like Apple in the late 90s. They were weeks away from bankruptcy. They were the laughingstock of the tech world. Most CEOs would have looked at the numbers and quit. They would have filed for Chapter 11 and walked away. But Steve Jobs and his team had an irrational level of endurance. They didn't just survive, they used the pressure of their near-death experience to innovate. They outlasted the skeptics. They outworked the giants. They outgrew their own failures. Today, they are the most valuable company on earth. They didn't win because they had more money, they had almost none. They won because they were the last ones standing in a room full of people who had already given up. The last person standing wins. The habit of finishing. Endurance is a habit, and unfortunately, so is quitting. If you develop a habit of quitting when things get uncomfortable, you are training your brain to seek the exit at the first sign of friction. You become a finisher of nothing. You have a dozen half-started businesses, a dozen half-read books, and a dozen half-hearted relationships. To develop an unbreakable endurance, you must become a finisher. You must make it a rule that once you start something, you do not stop until it is done, regardless of how you feel, regardless of the results, and regardless of the pain. If you say you're going to run 5 miles, you don't stop at 4.9. You run until the watch says 5.0. If you say you're going to make 50 sales calls, you don't stop at 49. If you say you're going to work until 6 p.m., you don't pack your bag at 5:55. These tiny finishes build the neurological infrastructure of endurance. You are proving to yourself, in the small things, that you are the type of person who stays. When the big challenges come, the ones that would break an average person, you will have a lifetime of evidence that you are a finisher. The long game, outlasting the noise. We live in a fast food culture. We want the results in 10 minutes. We want the overnight success. But real success, the kind that lasts, the kind that separates winners from everyone else, is a long game. It is about staying in the arena for decades. Most of your competition will be defeated by time, not by you. If you stay consistent, if you keep showing up, and if you keep improving, the noise will eventually fade away. The people who were louder than you, the people who seemed more talented than you, and the people who started faster than you will eventually get bored, get distracted, or get tired. If you are the only one left who is still working, you win by default. Outlast. Outwork. Outgrow. The final reinforcement. As we conclude this book, I want you to burn these 3 words into your mind. They are the mantra of the mentally tough. They are the shield against the world. Outlast. When it hurts, when it's boring, and when it seems impossible, just stay 1 more minute. 1 more day. 1 more year. Let the world break against your resolve. Outwork. When you are in the 40% zone, remember the 60% you have left. Do the representatives that others won't do. Stay in the chair when others are at the bar. Find the extra in the ordinary. Outgrow. Use every setback as fuel. Use every pain as a teacher. Don't just go through the struggle, grow through the struggle. Become too big for your problems. Closing. The throne of the tough. Mental toughness is not a destination. It is a daily practice. It is a commitment to a standard that most people find unreasonable. But the unreasonable people are the ones who move the world. They are the ones who build the empires, break the records, and leave a legacy that outlives them. You now have the tools. You know that readiness is a myth. You know how to control your emotions. You know how to embrace discomfort. You know how to work in silence. You know how to delay your gratification. You know how to rewrite your identity. You know how to silence your weak voice. You know how to take total responsibility. You know how to thrive in the boring. And you know how to endure until the end. The gap between you and everyone else is no longer a mystery. It is a choice. Every morning you wake up, you are faced with a decision. Will you be average or will you be tough? Will you react or will you respond? Will you quit at 40% or will you find your 100%? The world is full of everyone else. It is crowded at the bottom, but it is quiet at the top. And the air is beautiful. Go out there and do the work. Don't look for the applause. Don't look for the easy way. Just look for the next step. Outlast. Outwork. Outgrow. The last person standing wins. Make sure that person is you.